There's something about a back road at night that the daytime version of you can't quite prepare for. The way the headlights only reach so far. The way the dark on either side isn't empty, it just looks that way. Tonight I have 3 stories from people who learned that lesson the hard way. The third story, I want to warn you about the third story. It's not what's in the road that makes it disturbing. It's what was waiting at the destination. Most people who've heard it say it changes how they think about strangers asking for help. Stay with me. Mile marker 41. This happened in October of 2019. I was driving back from my sister's place in Bowling Green, Kentucky, a trip I'd made probably 30 times before. US 231 south to a county road, then another county road, then home. 90 minutes on a good night. I knew every turn. I left around 11 p.m. My sister had made dinner run late, and I had work the next morning, inventory at the hardware store I managed in Scottsville. I wasn't tired. I had a coffee in the cup holder and the radio on low. Everything was normal. About 40 minutes in, I passed a mile marker. I noticed it the way you notice things when you're half-focused, just a white post in the headlights, gone in a second. Then I passed another one. Then another. I didn't think anything of it. Then I passed mile marker 41 for the second time. I know that road. There's no loop. I would have had to turn around, and I hadn't. I kept driving, told myself I miscounted. There's a certain kind of tired where you stop trusting yourself, and I figured that was it. Then I passed it a third time. I pulled over. Completely still. I left the engine running and the headlights on, and I just sat there trying to reconstruct the last 20 minutes. The turns I'd made. The landmarks. There's a farm with a collapsed silo about a mile before that marker. I remembered seeing it. Once. I should have passed it 3 times if the marker was accurate. I pulled up maps on my phone. No signal. That's not unusual out there. I started driving again. Slowly this time. Watching the odometer. Watching the sides of the road. At what felt like a half mile, the headlights caught something on the right shoulder. A person. Standing still, facing the road, about 10 feet back from the pavement. I couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman. They weren't moving. They weren't hitchhiking, no thumb out, no wave. Just standing. I drove past. A quarter mile later. Another person. Same posture. Same distance from the road. Facing me. I accelerated. Another one. Then another. Spaced out like they'd been placed there. 7 of them total. I counted because counting felt like something to do, something that made me feel like I had a handle on what was happening. After the 7th one, the road opened up. I recognized the intersection at Route 100. I was back on track. I got home in 11 minutes. I looked at the clock when I pulled in. I had left my sister's at 11:04. It was 2:17 a.m. The drive should have taken 90 minutes. I've never taken that road at night again. What I keep coming back to, what I can't let go of, is that those people weren't doing anything. They weren't approaching the car. They weren't flagging me down. They were just watching the road. Like they were waiting to see who came through. Some people spend years trying to find a rational explanation for what happened to them on a back road at night. The next person who wrote to us stopped looking for one. The car on Fenton Road. I'm a paramedic. Have been for 11 years, based out of a station in Clallam County, Washington, right on the edge of the Olympic Peninsula. I'm telling you this because I want you to understand that I am not someone who startles easily. I have held people together in the literal sense. I know what fear looks like from the outside, and I know how to not feel it while the call is active. This was February 2022. I was driving home after a double shift, my own vehicle, not the rig. It was around 3 a.m., and I was taking Fenton Road because it cuts almost 8 miles off the highway route and I was running on nothing. Fenton Road is gravel for most of its length. Thick tree cover on both sides. No houses for the first 5 miles. I'd driven it 100 times. About 2 miles in, I came around a bend and my headlights hit a car parked sideways across the road. Not at an angle, fully perpendicular, blocking both lanes completely. Engine off. No lights. Just sitting there. I stopped. My training kicked in before anything else did. I assessed. No visible damage to the car. No one standing outside it. I grabbed my flashlight from the glove box, I always carry one, and I called out from my window before getting out. No response. I got out. Approached from the rear of the vehicle the way we're taught, keeping the frame between me and any potential threat inside. Passenger side. I shone the light through the rear window. Empty. No bags. No coats. No coffee cups. It was completely clean inside, which struck me as odd at 3 a.m. on a gravel back road. I walked around to the driver's side. The door was unlocked. I opened it and checked the registration in the glove box. The name on it was a woman's name, local address, a town about 12 miles north. I called it in. Dispatch ran the plate and it came back clean. No reports. I told them the location and said I'd wait. And then I heard it. From the tree line on the north side of the road. Not a scream. Not an animal. Something that landed exactly between those two things. A sustained sound. Hi. And then it stopped. I got back in my truck. I want to be precise about this next part because I've thought about it every day since. I left my headlights on the parked car, and in the 30 seconds before I got back in my truck, I watched the driver's side door, the one I had opened and left slightly ajar, slowly, smoothly, pull itself shut. No wind. The trees weren't moving. A sheriff's unit reached the scene 40 minutes later. They called me when I was almost home. The car was gone. They found it 3 days later in a ditch off Highway 112, 15 miles away. No plates. Different VIN than what was registered. The woman whose name was on the registration has never been reported missing. As far as official records are concerned, nothing happened on Fenton Road that night. I still drive it sometimes, in the daytime. I keep my windows up. 2 people experience something alone on those roads. The last story is a reminder that sometimes the most disturbing thing isn't what you see, but what the person beside you sees that you almost missed. She asked me not to stop. My wife and I had been arguing. That's important context. Not the dramatic kind of argument, the quiet, grinding kind that sits in the car with you for 200 miles. We were driving back to Amarillo from a wedding in Santa Fe, New Mexico, late July of last year. I-42, a state highway we'd been told was more scenic. It was beautiful in the afternoon. At 10 p.m. it was just dark. She was asleep in the passenger seat. I had the radio off because the signal had died about 40 miles back and I didn't want to wake her with static. Just engine noise. Just road. Around mile marker 88 on NM's 104, my headlights caught a woman on the shoulder. Walking. She had a bag over one shoulder, canvas, the kind you'd take to a gym, and she was moving at a steady pace, head down. She was barefoot. I slowed. You slow. It's instinct. A woman alone on a highway in the dark, no shoes, you at least slow down. My wife woke up. I don't know if it was the deceleration or something else, but her eyes opened and she looked at the road ahead, and she said, very quietly, very calmly, "Don't stop." I looked at my wife. She was staring straight ahead, past the woman. "Keep driving," she said. I hesitated. We were almost alongside the woman now. I could see her more clearly. Late 30s, maybe. Dark hair. She wasn't injured, as far as I could tell. She hadn't looked up at the headlights, which felt wrong. My wife put her hand on my arm. Firm. Please. I drove past. I watched the rear view. The woman didn't look up. She kept walking. Same pace. Head down. I didn't say anything for about 3 miles. Then I asked my wife what that was about. She was quiet for a moment. She told me she'd seen the woman before we reached her. That she'd been watching her from the moment she woke up. And that the woman's shadow, in our headlights, wasn't moving the way her body was moving. That the shadow was facing us. I've turned this over for a year. A shadow cast by headlights from behind should face forward. It should trail behind the person. I know that. My wife knows that. She's not someone who invents things. We didn't speak for the rest of the drive. Not because of the argument we'd had. We stopped at a gas station outside Tucumcari and I told my wife I was going to call it in, just a welfare check, just to make sure the woman was okay. The dispatcher asked me for the location. I gave her mile marker 88, NM 104. She paused. Then she asked me to describe the woman again. I did. Another pause. Then she said, "Sir, we've had 3 calls from that location in the last 2 months. All of them describe the same woman." I asked if they'd ever found her. The dispatcher didn't answer that directly. She just said, "We advise people not to stop." I didn't ask anything else. I'm not sure I wanted the answer. My wife and I don't talk about it. We took I-40 home. We always take I-40 now. 3 roads. 3 moments where the ordinary just stopped being ordinary. What stays with me about these stories isn't the figures in the dark or the cars that shouldn't exist. It's the details that people remember. The counting. The clean interior. The shadow facing the wrong way. Fear does that. It sharpens everything right before you'd give anything to stop seeing clearly. If you've ever been driving alone on a back road and felt, without any evidence at all, that stopping would be a mistake, I want to hear about it. Leave it in the comments. New stories arrive every night. Subscribe if you want them. And the next time you slow down for someone standing on the shoulder, check the shadow first.